Practice community.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm just starting this recording. So for those of you that are watching the recording, I just shared a little bit about my own journey into becoming a health coach. So I've been a certified life coach since 2019, and I'm now studying to become a health coach. And I've just become really interested in all the different factors that impact our mental health, which for a long time I didn't understand how many factors came into play. And I really thought that I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I thought that I was born with it. I thought that I had it for the rest of my life, which could be true, but there were also so many different factors that I didn't understand were impacting my mental well-being. And one of them was nutrition, which we're going to touch on next week. We were going to have a lesson on it yesterday, but we will talk about nutrition in today's workshop. And we're also going to be talking about basically the science of sleep and all the different things that we can do to better our sleep and why sleep is important. So we already connected. I asked everyone where they are in the world, what interests them in the topic, and we had some shares before we started recording. So I'm just going to pass through that. So why is sleep to us essential? I forgot to write the source of this quote, but this is a quote that I came across. It says, "The main facts in human life are five: birth, food, sleep, love, and death." So without sleep, our bodies can't function effectively, and we spend a third of our lives asleep. So sleep is essential. It's involuntary. Without sleep, we can't function effectively. And it's as important to our bodies as eating, as drinking, and breathing. And it's vital for maintaining good mental health and good physical health. It helps repair and restore our brains, not just our bodies. So today I want to talk to you about three different factors that can improve our sleep, or three different things we need to think about when we are working on our sleep habits. And they are: number one, nutrition; number two, environment; and then number three, the rhythms of our life. So our circadian rhythms and our ultradian rhythms. So the first thing I want to share a little bit about is nutrition. So for me, so a little bit about my health journey, which I know some of you were part of the Mindful Practice community when this was going on. Some of you weren't. But basically, as I was sharing before the recording started, I went to see a naturopathic doctor, gave me this whole prescription. One of the things she prescribed was for me to do a 7-day fast. So this is not something that I would encourage, by the way, without going to a doctor, speaking to a doctor, seeing if that works for you. But I went to this naturopath. I did this 7-day fast. I stopped eating and was just consuming a liquid diet. And by the end of the 7 days, all of my acne had cleared. And I had pretty bad acne before this process. And also I had like the best sleeps of my life. And obviously I've gone back to eating normally, and I eat all 3 meals a day now. Like I just had my breakfast. So I'm not saying like that you should fast. But what I saw from the experience was I went from this really dramatic transition from just eating, everything, sugar, caffeine, eating all these different types of things, to really reducing what I was eating, and it completely transformed my sleep. And then after the fast ended, I started introducing different foods back into my diet, and then I really saw how they impacted me. So like I accidentally had sugar one day, and I didn't realize that there was sugar in like canned tomato sauce, and I made a soup with a canned tomato sauce, and I was up the entire night, like a week after this fast. And it was just wild to me because it showed what an impact what I was eating had on my sleep. So what we eat impacts our body's ability to energize and rest, and eating a well-balanced diet can promote our better health. Something that people really advise is eating our biggest meal in the middle of the day and a lighter meal at night. And so that is one of the reasons I think fasting made me fall asleep and stay asleep so well, because I was falling asleep on an empty stomach. And I know this is difficult because in our culture, we normally have these like big dinners, these big meals. We're having snacks late at night. But this is one of the things that can really impact our sleep. Actually, I had a sleepover with Sarah and Kristen a couple weeks ago, and we had a really late dinner just because I think I saw Yasmin that day too, and I had a late lunch with Yasmin. I had eaten a lot. I was like, I'm not really that hungry. I think we had dinner at like 9:30, and I was up the entire night. Like I did not sleep a wink, and we didn't even have unhealthy food. Like we made the healthiest meal. It was like stir fry and quinoa, but because I had eaten so late, my body was just like digesting through the whole night. So eating our big meals earlier can help our body's ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. So some things that we want to be mindful of, try to limit our sugar and caffeine. Now I've gone back on caffeine. So I fasted and went off coffee and sugar and all of these things. And I'm gluten-free and I'm vegan, but coffee is the one thing that has snuck back into my life. So I'm having coffee again. So I say that because like no one can be perfect, right? We're all going to have like our little vices or our things that we like, but limiting caffeine, limiting sugar, reducing it, even taking like a week off these things and just seeing how it impacts you can be huge, because that might be enough to just make the difference. Having lighter meals at nighttime. So I mentioned earlier, have your big meal at lunch if you can. Try to find something to do when you're going to want to be late night snacking. So in my health coaching course, we call this crowding out. And what it means is instead of like reducing or taking away, like instead of deprivation and saying like, I'm going to stop myself from eating sugar, try to crowd out with something that's a healthier alternative at the same time. So you're not depriving, but you're adding something good to your life. So that could be food. Obviously in the late night snacking, that's not the case. But in this case, what they're talking about is avoiding something like late night snacking and instead doing something like yoga, meditation, journaling, like some kind of practice to keep you busy when you would be snacking. And drinking lots of liquids right before you go to bed. This can disturb your sleep if you have to run to the washroom. So try to finish drinking your liquids maybe like an hour before going to bed. Does anyone have any food related questions of anything that just came up? Okay, cool.
I have a question. Do you have a
Yeah, go ahead.
do you have certain food that you can eat before bed?
I don't. I have read that there are certain foods that help with your sleep, and there's certain nutrients that can help, like magnesium is a big one that actually my naturopath prescribed me magnesium, which I stopped taking, but I was supposed to have like a spoonful of magnesium in my water every night. And that actually my friend here in Bali also said that has helped him a lot. I personally don't. I have like a really structured food routine of what I eat, which is really like boring and simple, but it works really well. And I basically just have like vegetable stir fries and beans for like most of my meals. My breakfast is so good. I talk about it all the time. But it's like chia seeds and almond milk and almond butter and berries. That's what I have for breakfast every day. I just had it. And then I always have a stir fried vegetable before I eat that. So basically I'm just constantly, in terms of what I eat, it's all about like as much vegetable fiber and I don't eat meat. So it's vegan proteins. So beans and chia seeds, basically anything that can get me protein that's vegan. But for every single person, that's going to look different, right? So it's kind of like an exploration. Like, so for me, after even some of the things my naturopathic doctor prescribed to me and said I could have ended up not working for me. Like she said, fruits would be fine. And then the problem with me is that I'm like so addicted to sugar that then I would be binge eating fruit and then my acne was coming back. So I've just put a hard line on like, okay, the only little fruits I have are berries, but that's me personally. Like there's other people who that is going to work for them and they're not going to have like health effects. So there's nothing in particular that I eat to fall asleep at night, but I do have like a structured eating plan, which I have every day. That answer the question.
I have a question
Cool.
too. It's a
Yeah,
bit
go ahead.
confusing. And I don't know if you'll know how to answer this.
Yeah.
So before, like this would kind of go off and on in my life. I used to have a sleep eating problem, and it's okay if you laugh. Like I would like kind of sometimes I would be conscious of it, sometimes I wouldn't. And then I beat it for a couple years and I moved back here to Canada. And now lately it's kind of been coming back, but not like in a sleepy kind of way. It would just be, in the middle of the night when Mohi wakes me up, and then I'll just be really hungry and I can't fall back asleep. So I just end up eating a banana or like a spoonful of peanut butter. And it doesn't happen every day, but it has been happening. So in that situation, I don't know what I'm asking you, but either what would be something if I absolutely had to have something that wouldn't necessarily disrupt my ability to sleep, or how do you think that could be like prevented?
That's a good question. When we did this workshop, that was again a big peak of interest of mine, and this was with Tommy Rosen. We interviewed him for Sober Curious Yoga Week in September. I don't know if anyone was there on the call. I know Yasser was there. But I would recommend going back, by the way, and listening to that podcast interview because he really inspired me. I've published it as a podcast episode. It's called, I think it's Interview with Tommy Rosen. We're all on our hero's journey. But one of the things that he advised in that time was like, if you are up late night and you feel hungry, have a big glass of water, because he said that sometimes it's like your boredom is just kind of triggering you to want to eat. And that was helpful for me, honestly, because at that point in time, like I still do it. I have really late nights where I work until midnight doing sober calls or whatever. And I'm often snacking to like keep myself awake. So that was super helpful. I actually find that I don't get as hungry at nighttime because of how much protein I eat. I eat so many like beans throughout the day, and that keeps me like really full. So I would consider thinking about like, can you add more protein to your diet earlier in the day to be more full?
That's
and
what
then
everyone,
if you,
yeah,
oh,
I
sorry, go
don't
ahead.
eat protein.
What did you say?
I said, yeah, that's what everyone keeps telling me. I really don't eat enough protein. Sorry, I was cutting you off. I was just
No problem.
agreeing.
Learn how to make chickpea cookies. This is like my favorite thing now. It's like chickpeas in the blender with a little bit of vanilla, and I put it in the Sober Girls Yoga magazine, but I've been having like bean baked treats now, which I put a little bit of like dark chocolate, so it's like very little sugar, and it feels like I'm having a treat, but it's like just a ton of beans. And that has been really great for me. So there's like lots of creative ways to get your protein in if you're not a big meat eater or if you don't want to. But basically I try to have protein in every meal now. And this was something that I wasn't educated on when I was young. Like I had no idea, but basically I try to have every meal made up with vegetables, and then protein are the main components. And then after that, if I want to have like a treat, it's like, okay, I've at least hit the nutrients, and then I'll have something. If as well, one other thing I was going to add is if you do have to have a snack, for me, it's for my acne. Basically, if I have something that's sweet, I'm going to have an acne breakout, especially if it's on an empty stomach. So what I've learned to do is always go with savory. So savory breakfast and then savory snacks. So I'm either eating vegetables or protein if I'm hungry, like so nuts or some vegetables. And that for me, it keeps my blood sugar level at a flat, as opposed to like the problem with me was that my blood sugar was just going up and down and up and down and up and down. And that's where my acne was coming from. And for every single person, they're going to have different symptoms of this. So some people might have like arthritis, and they're going to get an arthritis flare up when their blood sugar is lifting and lowering. For me, it's my acne. And then for some people, it might be like a sleep a sleep thing. And so your body looks really healthy and there's no physical symptoms, but you're manifesting it in like your sleep or your mental health, your anxiety. For me, it was also like I had bipolar disorder, so I would have mania, and I had no clue that the symptoms are very real that I was experiencing, but there's so many things that I could do to try and intervene and prevent it. So, for example, I was sharing with the community over Christmas. On Christmas Eve, me and my mom were staying at this place in Canada, we went to this little town in Canada, and my sister and her husband had recommended this lovely little cafe. It was like an Anne Green Gables style cafe. And they said, you should go there for breakfast because it closes on, I think it was the 23rd. They said it closes today. So why don't you guys should go? And I thought, oh, it'd be nice to go out and get a walk. So we walk over this cafe, and the only gluten-free thing that they had on the menu was this like sugary cake. And gluten as well, for me, if you're someone that experiences bipolar disorder or mood disorders, there's like research showing that gluten has a big impact on it. And so if you can explore reducing gluten, that's been big for me. But that's been a hard stop for me. Like I don't eat any gluten. So I was like, oh, I'll have this gluten-free cake. It's, and it was coated in icing and sugar. And that was the first thing in my stomach that day. And I did not sleep the entire night. And I literally thought I was like, I think I'm having a manic episode. But the thing that would then worsen it would be my mind would spiral and be like, oh my God, I'm having a manic episode. I'm going to do crazy shit. I'm going to stay up all night, blah, blah, blah. And then that just makes it for me worse. And then it escalates and escalates and escalates. And then, you're not sleeping. And then I'm like, I'm going to destroy my life, and that's all just like my spiral. And instead I was like, okay, I need to get back on my health thing like right now. And so the next day when I woke up, like I was back to eating my normal breakfast. My whole family was eating like hot dogs for lunch. And I was like in the kitchen making like a stir fry and a chickpea salad. And I like feel like, the outcast. But I said to my sister, my brother-in-law, if I have a hot dog, I'm going to have a depressive, which seems like extreme, but it's like the truth, because I know my health well enough to know, like I just kept eating the things that were making it worse. So for me, it's like, okay, I know that I'm having an off day. I know that I've done this thing, but how can I go back to something, go back to eating, go back to yoga, go back to the things that are going to make me get back to balance and better. And all of this to say is like, I'm totally not saying like, go off your meds and just manage stuff with your food, because I was on meds for 8 years and medicine is like a wonderful resource. And I still have mine with me, and I might start taking them again if I need them. But for me, it's just become really positive to be able to become really mindful and self-aware of like all my actions and the impact of them and how I feel after. Does that make sense? Anyone have any more questions about food or comments or anything? Go for it.
Is there like a certain number of hours before you go to sleep that you won't drink coffee? Because I was wondering, like, I don't know, is there like a magic number of hours before you're supposed to avoid that?
You know what? I think for everyone, it's different. I try to avoid caffeine from like the afternoon onwards. Mm-hmm. But I think for everyone, it's different. Some people can have it like later, some people earlier. I think if like around midday is probably a good stop. Okay. I might have more answers for all of you though. I'm only halfway through my health coaching course. So like I might come back and be like, the answer later on. Any other questions? Okay, cool. So the next one is that I want to talk a little bit about is environment. So we need a peaceful place to sleep. So creating a special, peaceful, cleanly space can be amazing. So see if you can clear out the clutter in your space. As I say this, I have this suitcase that is just overflowing with stuff from my trip back to Bali that I haven't cleaned. So I'm like not 100% perfect at this, but trying to keep your space clean, coming back to your bed that's made at night can be a wonderful feeling, or coming home from vacation and your bed being made. removing electronics from the room, this was a game-changing thing for me. So my naturopath said to me to start putting my phone in the other room, and I literally just put it around the corner here in my house. Like my bed is here, and then you step out of my bedroom into the kitchen, and it has a little spot like the bed for the phone. But when I put it there, I know that I'm not going to look at my phone through the whole night. And the only exceptions to that are the problem is that I do like run this 24-hour community. And so sometimes there will be like a moment where I have to check my phone. Like I'm thinking of a time when I didn't sleep the whole night because I had like so many dates to eat and I had all this sugar in my body. And I was like, I need to get someone to sub my yoga class. And I got up at like 3 a.m. and texted Kristen to be like, can you sub my class in the morning? And she said yes, which was so great. But that would be the exception. And then I would put my phone back, and I try to remind myself that even if I've broken that rule of being on my phone, it doesn't mean that it's over and I can just be on my phone for the rest of the night or the rest of the week. So know that you could make a mistake with that, but always just try to come back to like your rules that work for you. So for me, my phone stays out of the room the whole night. I try to not be on my phone when I wake up in the morning. This morning I did get on my phone, which I always notice how it makes me feel right away, which is like, meh. I try to leave my phone off for like the first hour or so that I'm awake, which again is so difficult because I get up in the morning and I want to see like, did anyone sign up for my yoga teacher training? Did anyone da, da, da? And I just like want to check the notifications coming in on my phone. But it really helps if you just have your phone away and any other electronics during your sleep time, and then also in the morning when you wake up, and see if you can reduce any exposure to light and sound if it's possible. I really like to sleep with my curtains open here, but it's a little bit different because there's like nothing, there's no light around me. Like, you know, you guys live in the city, so there's probably light if your windows are open. But I sleep with my curtains open because I really love waking up to like the sunrise coming in. But if you have your curtains, if you do have like artificial light outside, keeping the curtains closed can be really helpful for falling asleep and staying asleep. Does anyone have any questions about our environment?
I do. Oh, go
Sorry,
ahead.
you go first. Whoever said that.
Alex, I'm just wondering, I mentioned earlier how I use my Calm app at night, and I have it programmed for like, I did it for 15 or and half an hour, but it wasn't long enough. I don't know, it might change now because I'm sleeping better than when I started, but I put it on for 2 hours and it shuts off. What's your thoughts on that?
I do that sometimes when I can't sleep. Actually, I'll put on like, well, I won't put on background noise, but I'll put on like an audiobook or a podcast to fall asleep. And it really helps me. Actually, I've had to stop listening to Dear Gabby because her end, sometimes I put on Dear Gabby when I'm falling asleep, and her end music is so disturbing. You guys know the Dear Gabby? It's just like, it's like very hip hoppy, and it woke me up the other night, like the end of the podcast. I was like, what is that? So that for me is like not a great choice because her voice is so calming, but it's just like the end disruption of the music. But yeah, listening to an audiobook, listening to some background music, I personally find it's a benefit for me. I don't do it every night, but if I can't fall asleep, it just gives me something to like focus on. I put it, again, the way my house is set up, I can put it out on this little table right by my bed and still hear it. And that works for me because it's like a barrier. It might work for you to have just like distance from your bed, wherever you put it, like not on your bedside table, but just on a table, like away from your bed so that you're not reaching your phone and checking it, you know, that might be something that I would say.
And I don't find that I'm checking my phone once I put it down and put that on. Like I since I started this journey, I actually have it on silent mode now, so the beeps and the vibration and nothing comes through, because I think that was disturbing me. I only have like my daughter, because it's emergency only if she contacts me, and because otherwise I worry if I don't have that, what if? So you know, so that's where the balance I found is having it on silent, doing the calm for 2 hours, but I don't touch it. Once it's down the mute and the calm's on. I don't
Yeah,
look at it.
that's great.
Okay, thanks.
Yasmin, did you have a question as well?
I did have a question. I've always wondered this. What is the verdict on Kindles? Because I like to read a book before I go to bed, but my books are all serious and they require like a lamp. So in the middle of the night when I wake up, I just want to keep it dark to try to go back to sleep. And my Kindle houses all of my stupid stuff. Like if I'm not going to be scrolling on like reels or whatever, then I'd rather read like Confessions of a Shopaholic. But I always wonder about Kindle, even though I try to keep the light low, is it something that you think would disrupt a sleep environment?
I think Kindle is better than an iPhone, because that's not the way a Kindle screen is lit. It's not like a bright, like the Kindle that I used to have, which I actually think I still have it in the bedroom, but I never use it. It has like a gray kind of background, so it's not like a super bright light on your eyes, so I actually think it's better for you than any other electronic. And if I think reading is better than looking at reels, I would say. So I think it's a good tool.
Okay, so we're pro Kindle.
I think so. I don't know the research. That would just be my immediate thought to that question. Is I think that Kindles are the best. If you are going to use something to help you like fall asleep, like I would say Kindle is better than iPhone. Yeah.
Thanks.
Good question. All right. The last thing I'm going to talk about are circadian and ultradian rhythms. So ultradian rhythms is brand new to me. I learned about it in my health coaching course. I found it so interesting. So basically, circadian rhythms are our internal clocks that coincide with the 24-hour cycle as the Earth rotates the sun. Our ultradian rhythm are wake rest cycles that happen throughout our day in these 80 to 120 minute cycles. So we all have these ultradian rhythms, and basically in this span of between 80 minutes to 120 minutes, every single time it happens throughout the day, our bodies go through these bursts of energy, and then these moments where we hit more fatigue. And if we keep working straight through this entire time, it's going to impact our ability to sleep. It's going to impact our mental health. And what can really benefit us is between every 90 minutes to 2 hours, making sure that we block in like a 20-minute break if it's possible. Now, I know that's like kind of impossible if you're like a school teacher, because I was a teacher before, and it's difficult in different work environments. Now, a break doesn't have to look like what we think of a break as being. So it could be, for example, like just having a conversation with someone, or, it could be going for a walk, it could be meditating. The best ultradian rhythm break is to like literally lie down and have a mini nap, which like none of us can do in our work lives, I think. So basically you're looking for other alternatives. So for example, having a chat with a colleague, even a chat, if you're a teacher, like a chat with a student, like a conversation that's not where your brain is like thinking and working, can be really beneficial. So this, I just wanted to show all of you, this is on my vision board for this year. And this is my, one of my chakras. And this is my morning routine and my bedtime routine. And I'm doing the Gabby Bernstein Manifestation Challenge right now. I do it every January. And there was this quote by Wayne Dyer yesterday. He said, "We don't manifest what we want, we manifest who we are." And I really love that, because it's true that all of these little tiny steps that we do each day start to create us into who we are. And that impacts what we can call into our life, what we can achieve. So it's all about the little tiny steps that we do every day that create the person that we want to be. So these images just show what's on my vision board for my morning routine and my bedtime routine. So I want to get up and go for a bicycle ride every day. I want to meditate for a little bit every day. I want to journal for a little bit every day. I want to journal for a little bit at bedtime, have a bubble bath, and do a bit of reading. Now, do I actually accomplish all of this right now? No. There was a peak time in my life when I first saw my naturopath and got off my phone and made this huge transition when I actually was doing all of this, and I felt so good about myself. And then it's fallen to the wayside with routine changes, but this is my dream of what I'm striving for. Now, every single person's is going to look different based on what interests you, what grounds you, what practices you want to bring into your life. But this might be something that you want to think about. Like, what do you want your morning routine to look like? What do you want your bedtime routine to look like? And speaking of rhythms, we're going to talk a little bit about rhythms for our last few minutes. So we have 10 minutes left. So first, let's talk about morning rhythms. So we can support our circadian rhythms by waking up at the same time every day and spending time outside right after you wake up. So I do this every single day. I just got in actually at 7 a.m. in Bali right now. Well, it's almost 8 a.m., but I just got in from my morning walk. And sunlight exposure early in the day is associated with earlier melatonin production and falling asleep more easily at night. And something you can also do in the morning is set your intentions for the day ahead. You could journal, you could meditate, any practices that would benefit you. So I have 2 reflection questions, and I don't think we're going to actually have time to do this. We were going to write and share a little bit, but I'm meeting someone right at 8 a.m. So I want to make sure that I stay on my schedule. So I'll just give you these questions and then you can have them to think about. So my first question for you is, what is your current morning routine? How does it set you up for the day ahead? And write some ideas that you have for setting up for success in the morning. What would that look like? Now, the next thing I want to share about is our afternoons. So like I was saying earlier, we have to take regular breaks in order to feel rested, productive, and creative. Think about the kind of work you do and how you can balance it with a break that's the opposite of what you do. So for example, when I was a school teacher, I was like super active on my feet, running around. So going for a walk is like kind of more activity that I'm adding to my body. So when I was a teacher, I used to sit and meditate. I would actually go in the closet and sit and do like a Reiki healing a few times a day. And that really grounded me. If, my new life is that I'm now working from home and I'm sitting all the time at home and I rarely get out. I rarely walk the way that I used to. And so I try now to go for a walk or a bike ride for my breaks throughout the day. So if you're sitting down in an office all day, you might want to go for a walk. Try to listen to your body's signals about when it's time to take rest. And like I said, with our ultradian rhythms, it should be like at least every 90 minutes to 2 hours, taking a little break if it's possible. And if you just keep pushing through without taking a break, then you're just going to hit like lower creativity. You're not going to feel rested. You're going to feel less productive. So really trying to honor that time. And being mindful with caffeine, like we were saying earlier, see if you can replace it with non-caffeinated drinks after lunch. And my reflection questions for you are, what do your afternoons look like? Think about some ideas for taking rest in the afternoon. What would that look like? And evening rhythms. So now this is like tremendously difficult for me right now because of me living in Bali, and I end up working, like last night I worked until 11:30 p.m. just on time zones, which is tricky. But I really admire people that are able to build in those evening rhythms that support them for sleep. So winding down at night helps prepare our body for sleep. And you could read a book, you could take a warm bath, you could do some calming yoga poses. Anything that's going to help you wind down and create a ritual and signal your body that it's time for rest. So you could keep a journal every night. you could weave some joy into your bedtime routines, like maybe buy some like really fancy pajamas, set up your bed to make it look really beautiful, your bedroom really nice. Just try to find things that make bedtime a joyful experience. And my questions for you are, what do your current evening routines look like? And what would be a bedtime routine that would support your sleep? Okay, I think that is oh, here's the last one. So here's some bonus tips, some last things. So alcohol really negatively impacts our sleep. I think most people here are sober or sober curious. If you still drink though, I would say replace alcohol with water several hours before bed. Try to eat your last meal or snack at least 60 minutes before bed, hopefully longer, because if your body is still digesting, it has less energy for resting. Create your peaceful sleep place, maybe with your devices outside the room, calming scents, beautiful decorations, and see if you can decrease artificial light exposure before bedtime. All right. That is what I have for you today. If anyone is curious about more about this, I do one-on-one coaching, sobriety coaching, and I'm starting to bring in health coaching into that work, which is really cool. So reach out to me if you're interested in any of that, and let me know if you have any questions for me about anything that I have shared today. I'm going to stop my share. Well, thanks for coming, everyone. This was really wonderful, and I really enjoyed sharing it. So thanks for joining.